So I'm Sandra Johnston. I teach at Northumbria University in England, but I'm Northern Irish, and I was one of the founder members of Be Beyond in the early days. I'm here with 5 other artists who made the journey over from Newcastle, and we're not organised in the way that Be Beyond is. We're a disparate group, and the situation in England is very different to Belfast. There's very much a scattered, disjointed community of performance artists, who I call us a quiet network, because we are quite solitary. We're quite far apart, and this has been an important moment that 6 of us managed to come across together, and I think it marks a moment in the political circumstances in England after Brexit. And being in the north of England, there's it's an area that's post-industrial, and like Belfast, suffers a lot from welfare issues, and noticeably during Brexit was one of the areas that where the vast majority of people voted to leave Europe. So it's quite a difficult time for us being artists in a culture that seems to have lost heart in culture. So as an artist, I've been making work in many different ways as a performance artist since 1992, and I think that's only significant because the first part of my career was during the Troubles, and at that time I was working as a woman, making actions in public space completely by myself, with only the support of a video camera and a tripod tied to a fence, or tied, sitting in a derelict building, very much looking for empty spaces and places where I could be private and I could explore and experiment, not knowing what it was that I was doing or how to connect it into a language. And the only impetus that stayed in front of me, that gave me inspiration and momentum, was Alistair MacLennan and Brian Connolly, both of whom had already set an example through the courage and the difficulty and the rigour of their artistic practice. So for me, they were very pivotal in beginning to try and create something through performance actions, and to put trust in gestures rather than objects or representations, just to try to trust in what it is to be present and find a way to move or interact with environment. And I think, from that point, it's so interesting to see the growth of Be Beyond, but also internationally the huge growth of very, very small, very fragile organisations, self-organising, voluntary, more or less unfunded, working with performance art. It's an amazing, disparate map. It's not so coherent as a network. And I think today, and this stage that Be Beyond and what this conference maybe marks, is one of those moments of looking across and acknowledging the circumstances of others, and the need for solidarity, and the need also for strategy to try to find ways to help support each other. I think we can almost take it for granted in Belfast, because Be Beyond has been here for 13, 15 years, and something has grown up that's allowed the older generation of artists to support young ones coming through and experimenting and testing and trying and maybe rejecting, but at least having the choice or the possibility to explore what it might mean to work with your body in time. And I see a huge difference in other places where art is taught as an aesthetic game and as a formal set of concerns that reference only an increasingly shrinking part of art history. So it feels that so much art that's being made at the so-called top end of the art world is completely self-referential and inward-looking. And I would say that part of the difficulty with performance art as a medium is its vulnerability to interpretation in the present time. That while you are making it, people are forming a judgment about it, and you have no possibility to edit or stop or step out, because that breaks the integrity of what you're trying to build. So it's a kind of, it's such a difficulty in establishing the confidence and faith in yourself that your actions may have value beyond you, you know. And I'd say that's what most performance artists are trying to do. There's such a, and many of the discussions in the last 2 days have touched on the fact that we all have very complex lives and practices and processes. We make work within these groups in open sessions. We make work collaboratively, and we make work solo, and some make work that exists mostly through documentation. Many performance artists almost never perform live. So I think it's a kind of whole series of perhaps not contradictions, but how we define these different strands of our practice and why each of them may be vital and may be necessary. And I feel for me to make work in public and to have the possibility to do that within a group situation, if there's trust and if there's responsibility in the group, I feel like that the potential of the situation is so much greater, that the group feeds and enables in a way that's just simply not possible by yourself. So I feel like we've all learned a huge amount from each other, and that capacity to learn about encounter is one of the things that now seems to be spreading, not just from Be Beyond, but also from organisations like Persha in Germany, Copologia in Spain, many organisations that try to take this sense of synchronicity and simultaneous responsiveness and responsibility, and creating, I think, ethical platforms. I feel when I meet artists who practice in this way from all across the world, the thing that strikes me is their values and where they place their humanity. And I think that's a lesson that we learnt here in Belfast through the Troubles, how to contain and protect your humanity, but also how to use it, not to withhold it and lock it away, but actually to learn how to engage with others in ways that might be meaningful but might be very gentle and non-prescriptive or just non-aggressive. So it's been a way of establishing different means to escape your own prejudice and to start to deal with the conflict that's often around us on a daily basis. So I think that it's not that Be Beyond has answers, but I think we've tried to learn from each other, and we've also tried to share those useful things that we've found.